everything?
Joining me now is Senator Frank Wagner, Republican, Virginia Beach. Senator, good to have you with us.
Good to be here, John. How's everything?
Good, Senator. Never better. You did a major op-ed over the weekend, ran in some of the biggest newspapers in the Virginia area, basically outlining why you are now in favor, in certain circumstances, of voting for Medicaid expansion in Virginia. One of the things that you said is you got to read the tea leaves, but part of what you said is that you are in favor of the hospital tax, which Senator Hanger, the other Republican that's favorable to Medicaid expansion, is not. Can you walk us through your thinking and what made you change your mind on Medicaid expansion, sir, in Virginia?
Actually, we were at a total impasse. The House is locked into their position with Medicaid expansion. Senator Hanger was always supportive of certain portions of it without the provider tax. His objection to the provider tax wasn't that we were going to tax the hospitals, but his objection was it wasn't being used for health care. So you knew that the tea leaves were there. The question is, do we want to put a conservative input in on the whole program? And I felt, absolutely, I want to get involved. And what's happened is the provider tax itself plus the Medicaid savings is a huge chunk of money. The provider assessment tax, whatever you want to call it, hospital tax, is well over $300 million in and of itself. And
right.
The House had proposed a number of different expenditures, none of which had anything to do with health care. And I understand their position. They're all great programs. I mean, a lot of programs we look at, they are great programs. The question is, is it things that are appropriate to fund, and do we want to fund them to the level? One of the things that I looked at is, what about the next group up above those that get expanded Medicaid? Those people are struggling every day to pay their premiums. They're struggling every day to pay their co-pays and their deductibles. And we're not doing a single thing to help those folks. Yet we have $300 million in new money from the hospitals that, I think it's appropriate that we take a minimum half of that money and provide some type of tax relief for the middle class, lower middle class, the people above the poverty level that are not going to get any relief, but they're quite frankly just as much in need of relief as the group that's going to get it. And so I think it's altogether appropriate that we plow that money back into tax relief. There may be another form or fashion we can help those folks pay for their premiums, but understand that the quote-unquote not-for-profit hospitals, John, have made well over $1.1 billion last year. So these are quite profitable hospitals that don't pay any taxes at all. They don't pay any property taxes. The localities, they don't pay any income taxes on a significant amount of income. And, the object being is, well, we do free care. Well, that free care won't be there any longer because the folks that are now without health insurance will now have Medicaid. So the logic behind that is just not there. And, I find it kind of galling to begin with that a quote-unquote non-for-profit that we grant all these great benefits to, together the 5 largest hospital systems made over $1.1 billion with a B dollars last year. So I think the assessment's appropriate. And I think we need to turn and flip that assessment around and help some folks pay their co-pays and help their deductibles and do those kind of things. Then the other thing, John, that concerns me very much, and if you read my op-ed piece, you'll see some words in there, is that we've created a cliff, regardless of where you put, what level of poverty you put the Medicaid expansion at. If you earn a little bit more money than that level, then all of a sudden you lose all your benefits. Well, that's just wrong. And we need to work out a system where, as you start to approach the end of where the cliff would be, you start to get more skin in the game. You start to pay some money out of your pocket. And so you can improve your lot in life, pick up more of your responsibility for your health insurance, money in your pocket. And I think this Trump administration will grant us the waivers to run the program that way, and I think it's up to our Department of Medical Assistance, DMAS they call it, to put that program in place so that we have a way you can work your way up through, not lose your benefits, but pick up more responsibility for yourself. At the same token, provide some form of tax relief with this $300 billion that we're going to get back in our hands to help out the working middle class and do everything we can to help those folks and move forward with the program and receive the government money and realize some of the savings in the budget that we're going to realize. I think it's a smart move at this point in time to go ahead and do that and move forward.
We're with Senator Frank Wagner, Republican, Virginia Beach, Virginia. Senator Wagner doing an op-ed piece, an editorial that ran on Sunday in many of the area newspapers in Virginia, and the senator coming out in favor, under certain conditions, of Medicaid expansion in Virginia in order to end the budget impasse. So, Senator, let me ask you this now. If you go into session on Wednesday, you have changed your position on Medicaid expansion. I think you did the right thing. I'm going to go on the record. As you know, I am in favor now of Medicaid expansion, and I think your op-ed was spot on, and I think it was a very courageous move because at the end of the day, this is absolutely the right thing to do based on our current situation in Virginia, both economically and politically. So let me ask you this. Going into Wednesday, how did this now play out? Walk us through the details of it, of how this might become law.
Well, we go into Wednesday. The governor will submit the budget. The budget will go to the House. So basically, the Senate will go into session and basically adjourn an hour later, okay? Because it is a special session, there's certain procedural resolutions that we have to pass to establish the terms of the special session. The House will have to, go through the Appropriations Committee of that thing, and it takes a period of a few days to go ahead and transmit the House version of the budget. And what I imagine they'll do is they'll lay their original budget they passed earlier onto the governor's budget and submit it to us. At that point, about a week from Wednesday, when we go back up for the reconvene, we'll also go into the special session, take the budget, refer it to the Finance Committee. We'll probably lay our original budget on the finance just so we can get the budget back into conference again. So I suspect what you'll see and is the Senate budget going through as you saw the Senate budget so we can get back into the situation where we're back in conference again. Once we're in conference, believe me, as a conferee on the budget, we couldn't even get into any of the details of the budget to work out the differences because of the big stumbling block of Medicaid. So clearly, we're going to go in and make some major decisions. Do we ask for provider assessment, this, that, the other thing, and that way we have a bottom line because it's a significant figure on the overall revenue posture for the upcoming biennium. Once we figure out, resolve the issues on the provider assessment, then we'll have a revenue figure, and then we can go through the rest of the budget. And I'm talking public safety, general government, natural resources, economic development, K through 12 education, higher ed, all the right aspects, all the innuendos of the budget, transportation, work out the differences and produce a budget. Hopefully, typically when we have conferences, we're generally in session, and even while we're in session, in the evenings, very early in the morning, and throughout the day, we're having meetings to work out the differences. So I'm sure we'll go into a conference and start to work those issues through. Hopefully, within a couple of weeks, we can work out those issues, and then there's a requirement that we present the budget and give all the legislators at least 72 hours to go over the details, review it, have staff review it with any senators, answer any questions and all of that before we bring the budget back to the floor for a vote. We'll make that vote on the budget. Presumably it'll pass both chambers, be conveyed to the governor, and then we'll have to come back and deal with the governor's amendments, any amendments he may put on the budget 45 days after the special session. So I think we'll have the whole thing move forward. I know there's potentially some decisions in Washington that may come up in the intervening next 4 or 5 weeks that may have some type of impact on the budget, and we'll have to deal with that when we go through there. But I think something I would like to say, when you look through, you look at our Vice President, Mike Pence, under his leadership in the governor's office in Indiana, which is a solid red state, he expanded Medicaid. So, a lot of red states have gone ahead and done this, expanded Medicaid, and had fairly good results. I think there's an excellent report from Brookings Institute if you want to read it about the results of those states that have done this. So, if there was a hue and cry from some on the other side that it'll bring down, government or Virginia as we know it, I think there's plenty of examples around the country where they've gone ahead and done it. What I'd like to see is Virginia take a leadership role and recognize there's a whole other group of people above the poverty level that need some help. I mean, there are people making very tough decisions every day. You're talking about $6,000 deductibles with somebody making $30,000, $40,000 a year. That's a huge chunk of money out of somebody's paycheck, to try to cover the health care expenses. And I think we need to recognize that it's great we're helping 300,000 or 400,000 people that don't have health insurance now, but we have a responsibility to another 2 million people above that level to do everything we can. And maybe it comes in the form of reduced taxes so that they can use that money then to help pay for the rest of their health care bills and do those kind of things. And that's where I'm at right now, John. It's more than just these folks that are uninsured. It's recognizing that. Let me ask you. Go on.
Let me ask you a political reality question. Okay, I think you did the right thing. I think this was the right thing to do, and I think it's the right time because you're going to get Medicaid expansion one way or the other. You're either going to get it with conservative reforms now that Kirk Cox and people like yourself are negotiating it in, or you're going to get it with David Toscano negotiating it. It's going to happen one way or the other because the governor could simply send down a new bill, and then if Emmett Hanger votes for it, Justice Fairfax is going to break the tie, and you have no control over what that is. So here's my question. Your switching, though, is going to likely invite a primary challenge to you. You had a tough election in 2015. You're likely now to get a Tea Party or some other challenge on this issue. Are you just throwing caution to the wind here?
John, I think you said it when you said you're doing the right thing, okay? If you feel like you're doing the right thing, do the right thing, and deal with the consequences later on. I've never walked away from a challenge. I've never walked away from the attempt to do it. If you have an opportunity to do what you think is the right thing, by God, do the right thing. And, deal with any consequences after the fact. But, I happen to think that the vast majority of my constituents, and if you look at it, my constituents are hardworking folks for the most part, and not necessarily living on big waterfront homes either. And those are the folks I'm talking about trying to get some help out to. It's certainly, I may well have a primary challenge. I think, we see that going on virtually every Republican incumbent, in Virginia right now, or a lot of them are facing both primary challenges as well as Democrat opponents. That's fine. Do it, but don't give up that opportunity to do what you think is the right thing. I mean, that's why you have the job to begin with. If it's all about I'm looking for political cover and all of that, perhaps you ought to find a different job. There's too much of that going on in politics to begin.
We're out of time. I got to roll. Thank you, Senator Frank Wagner.
Well, John,
breaking the dam on Medicaid expansion. Thank you.